Well, welcome everyone to today's episode of TMI Advice You Didn't Want. We are going to go back to our TikTok and look at some of the things that people are telling us right now. And one of the things that we've been really talking about is the Schumann resonance. And one of the things that people have been saying to me is my body, like my cycle, my period, is lining up with things like the Schumann resonance spikes. Why is that? And so we wanted to talk about a little bit about that, but not only the Schumann resonance spikes, but the moon, the world, like all of the astrological things that can happen that our bodies can sync to. So it's going to be a good one. So in case we haven't met, my name is Karen.
And my name is Ashley. And I always find it interesting because like we've talked about so many times, we are the powerful, we are the I am, but there are things in our life that are going to help us focus on where our focus needs to be, right? So like when our period happens, it's telling us something. It's telling us what's going on. It's the same idea with if we're having pain in a certain place or if we're suffering from a certain disease, that is telling us something 100%. And so with our period, I know more about the astrology side of things of the period part of it. But for the any type of trauma, any type of stress, it can move your cycle around.
Mm-hmm.
So females are creators and females need safety to procreate, right? Like it would be crazy for a female to want to have a baby in the middle of like this big massive war where like obviously you don't want to go into labor, let alone be 9 months pregnant
Right.
when the world's going to shit. So our bodies are literally created to not be fertile if we're stressed out.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're stressed out, our fertility cycles, however you want to call it, they're going to change.
Yeah.
And with the Schumann resonance, it's creating spikes, which is bringing trauma back that we need to deal with. And that's just a personal, I haven't really dug into the science behind it, but that makes sense that your cycle's going to change because of the things that you have to deal with, the trauma you have to deal with.
Right. I mean, you see this happen where people are like, oh, my period lines up with the new moon or the full moon, right? Like your body is literally energetically aligning itself to what's going on astrologically too. Like that's definitely a thing. That's definitely something that our bodies do. It's just part of being a human being in this 3D reality. And here's the thing, this isn't just for women, this is also for men. Men can also, in a lot of ways, everybody's like, oh, women are the only one with cycles. No, men have cycles too. They just are different,
Mhm.
right? And the difference is only because there's certain hormones that cause them to be different, either higher or lower in females. Now, there are some people that this doesn't fall in line with, but when we're looking at the bell curve of what, generally speaking, a woman's hormones look like, generally women's hormones fit a 28-day cycle, right? But yes, there are women and men that fall outside of that bell curve and it looks different just because of different things going on in their genetics, in how they think and feel, what's going on with their body in general. So we're just talking about the general bell curve right now. So, but it's just one of those things that being a part of this 3D reality means that we get to be a part of this vessel that we call a body. And this body is very attuned to what's going on
Mhm.
in our 3D reality. It knows things that maybe we don't know on a conscious level. And so that to me is how come it syncs up to different things, because maybe we've been thinking, acting, feeling a certain way, and that is causing us to sync up. Like you said, if we are in a state of fight or flight, or we're like literally in survival mode, our body is not going to want to procreate.
Mhm.
It just doesn't. I can't tell you how many women have told me I was in severe fight or flight and I couldn't have children. They told me I would never have children. When I got my body out of fight or flight, I became pregnant almost instantly. Like
Mhm.
that is just because we've synced our body to certain hormones, and those hormones either allow us to have children or not.
Mhm.
So,
The interesting thing about that is there's a lot of females that have get pregnant in abusive situations. And that's
Hmm.
what is kind of interesting to me is how there is that override. And that is too where we are our own creators. And so
Absolutely.
our situations around us aren't always going to dictate what our body does. We have to actually like tap into that. But
Yeah,
uh,
no, that's true.
and so with the whole like full moon and new moon, I've always heard that the new moon symbolizes like more connection to creating an intuition, and the full moon symbolizes more like of a purge, if that makes sense. So if your period is syncing with the full moon, you're in a stage of your life where you're purging. And if it's syncing with the new moon, you're in a stage of your life where you are creating. And I know for me, because my life is kind of all over the place right now, I have my period has been changing between
Hmm.
the new moon and the full moon like a lot in the last year. And it's really interesting because my period used to be synced with the new moon consistently, always, but
Hmm.
it's definitely been more all over the place this last year. And so it's kind of like when you do like full moon or new moon rituals, like again, they're not the end all be all, but I like them. They're fun. And so a new moon is more about setting your intentions and like manifesting and that kind of thing. And a full moon is more about releasing the things that are no longer serving you, having like a burn ceremony, like that kind of stuff. And so then that also aligns with where are you at in your life with when you're getting your period. So do you need to let things go and purge, or are you more in that creative, intuitive space?
Yeah, and I think the most important thing about all of this is to just notice. And here's the thing, you don't even have to notice this either. Like, when does it sync up? It really, at the end of the day, isn't going to make or break. What matters more is that we notice what's going on with us internally. Are we in a state of fight or flight, or are we in a state of rest and relaxation where we actually can create, right? So
Mhm.
I think at the end of the day, we could like go crazy and be like, "Oh, well, what does this all mean and why didn't this show up that way and how come my I'm showing up as my period is on the new moon instead of the full moon and what could you could make yourself crazy, or you could just go, "What's going on with me internally? How am
Mhm.
I feeling right now?" And I think that's probably one of the best things that we can do for ourselves that I think has is not something that we teach our children. Unfortunately, I think that's one of the biggest crying shames is that we're not teaching our children to be connected with that emotional self. I know
Mhm.
I wasn't taught how to do that. I really wasn't taught to get connected to what was going on with me emotionally. Why am I feeling anxious? Why am I biting my nails? That was the biggest thing that I had since childhood. And I
Yeah.
remember my parents saying, "Oh, are you feeling anxious?" Now that I'm older, I'm like, holy shit, I was feeling frustrated, but I didn't realize it. But my
Mhm.
parents would always be like, oh, you feel anxious, you need to blah, blah, blah. But there was really no like digging into, well, why are you biting your nails? It was more like a just stop doing that thing instead of focusing on why do I have this addiction? What's the
Mhm.
emotion behind the addiction? One of
Yeah.
the best things that I've ever heard somebody say, I was listening to a podcast and um, this guy was a bodybuilder that was the host of the podcast, and he invited somebody on that said what I'm about to share. But this guy was like, okay, so I love taking care of my body. I love eating right, but there are some times that I really want to have sugar. After I eat sugar, I feel so guilty. And the
Mm.
guy that he invited on the podcast was like, I think you're addicted to guilt. You're
Mm.
addicted to that feeling of guilt. That's how come you want to eat the sugar. It's
Yeah.
not the action that we're taking, it's the feeling that we're addicted to. And when we get behind that, that's when things are like, holy shit. That's what I was missing. And like, I can see how that frustration played out my entire childhood. I can see how that frustration played out as an adult. And now I'm like turning around that ship and going, okay, I don't need to feel frustrated about anything and everything. I can allow things to be as they are. And the more that I do that, I mean, now I get to do my nails because I'm like, my nails can be pretty. I'm not biting them to the core anymore.
Yeah.
And that for me is like a huge manifestation. It might sound really silly or simple to a lot of people, but I remember being in high school going, I'll never have pretty nails. I'm
Mm.
never going to be like one of those girls that has pretty nails. I was always self conscious. I told my husband when he wanted to propose to me, I don't want a big rock because I don't want anything that draws attention to my hands because I
Mm.
was so self conscious about how my nails looked. I
Mhm.
didn't even go to that wasn't even a thought for me of going to, well, but what's the feeling I'm feeling when I'm doing this?
Yeah.
And so, like, I would notice when I would do it. When I would do it is when I would do things like watching TV and something was like, oh God, what's going to happen next? And there was that feeling of frustration of what's going to happen next or whatever that is, you know? And so I would notice those things, but I wouldn't really pay attention to, well, how do I turn this thought into something else? Because I didn't know how to do that. I didn't think that was a thing. And I see this on our TikTok a lot where people are like, I'm feeling anxious or I'm feeling angry or frustrated or whatever. And I feel like I can't change it.
Mhm.
That is to me is one of the biggest crying shames that people don't realize that we have the choice. Might not be easy. I'm not sitting here saying that this is an easy process, but it is a process that if you start to notice those thoughts and go, I need a new thought in place of this one, that
Mhm.
you can actually create so much change in your mental body as well as your physical body that
Yeah.
can show up in ways like, oh, my period is cycling differently, or oh, I'm not having this same, like I would go through these like anxious cycles where I'd be really anxious and I would notice I would start to feel anxious right before my period started.
Mhm.
And then my period would start and I would kind of, that anxiety would wave down. And
Yeah.
then it would be good until right before my period started again. I would start to notice those cycles for myself too. And I'm like, oh, I really need to know when those things are happening, notice when those things are happening so that I can be on top of myself whenever I see those signs of feeling more anxious. It's
Yeah.
just a process of noticing yourself and getting really good at noticing those cycles.
Well, and that's the thing that like a lot of people just are like, "Oh, you're a female, so you're gonna have PMS and it's gonna suck and you're gonna be emotional." But like having a more awareness to it, one of the things I heard fairly recently was whatever you are anxious about or angry or whatever emotion it is that you're feeling during that PMS period, um, is stuff that is like trauma or whatever you want to call it that you're holding on to.
Yeah.
And so if like before your period you're like, "Oh, I'm really anxious about this," or "I'm really irritable," or "I'm really this," that is your heightened awareness being like, "You need to deal with this."
Yeah.
It's not just there because you're PMSing and you're a female
Right.
and that's part of your period. It is literally there to spotlight this is the thing that you need to work on and you need to deal with. So I think that's really important. Like nothing just happens really.
No,
So,
I don't think anything just happens. The longer that I really notice myself in manifestation and doing all this stuff, I'm like, nothing just happens.
yeah. Like there's little things like so I was hit by a drunk driver. I'm like, was that did I really manifest that? Was that some kind of karma? All that kind of stuff. I don't know.
You
I
can make yourself
definitely
crazy with stuff like that too. I
oh
don't
for
think we need to
sure.
go there.
No. And so for me, it was like, I don't know if that was something that I created or not. But I was able to turn it into something and utilize it. And it's like we've talked about too before, like Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill talks about with every disadvantage, there's a seed of equivalent or greater advantage. So there's that aspect. But when it comes to like your life stuff, like especially as an adult, like we said already on this podcast, if something's happening in your body and whatever, if you have feelings, if you have diseases or chronic illnesses, you are creating that 100%. It is screaming at you in one way or another, whether it is you get anxious before your period or you chew your nails or there was something else I was just about to say and it went out the window. Um, but you are creating those things and you are setting yourself up with those. And that is important to watch. Every situation that happens around you like me getting hit by a drunk driver or me dealing with court with my kids, that kind of stuff, I don't know if that happened for a reason. But when it comes to your like your body and what it's saying to you, that for sure, it is telling you what you need to know and helping you see the light and know which direction you want to go into so
Yeah.
that you can create more.
I will say, I think that challenges like what you just said about getting hit by a drunk driver, challenges that I've experienced in my life that I've shared on here, challenges that you've experienced with Derek's ex, like these things come up to help us purge too.
Hmm.
These things are part of the challenge to help us create the change in our life. Dr. Joe Dispenza says this all the time, but he says, don't you know you need the challenge to change? You
Hmm.
need it, guys. Like, it's not there just for shits and giggles. It's there because a lot of times we want to become complacent and
Hmm.
we want to just have things flow and be easy for us. In order for things to flow and be easy, we need to change. We need to become who it is that we want to, what is it that we want to create? We have to become that person first. If you
Yeah.
want to create abundance, you have to become abundant. If you want to create health, you have to become healthy before the
Yeah.
thing happens. It
Yeah.
doesn't happen as it's happening, it happens before it happens. We have to decide that we want to be that person. And the thing that I've really learned, I remember you asked me this a while, Ashley. Like it wasn't like an ask, but like, what do you think about this? Like, why is it there are some people that maybe they hit abundance faster than others? And my answer to that was it was a different lesson. We don't know what lesson they internally need. What is the challenge that they need to overcome in order to become that person that they're desiring to become? Just different lessons along the way. I think that's one of the biggest reasons that all of our lives look so differently because we do tend to have different desires, and with those different desires require different kinds of challenges that come in different ways.
Yeah.
So why are some people, I mean, this is going to get really sticky and I don't want anybody to get really stuck on this, but why are some people abused, right? Like, why do those things happen? There's certain challenges that show up because we are energetically putting out that energy for it. And because of that challenge, we can rise above it and become somebody else where that no longer shows up in our energy field. And now we no longer attract that thing to us.
Hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah, it fucking sucks that we have to go through something like abuse or, in your case, like drunk driver hitting you. But that challenge helps us level up
Hmm.
regardless of how it comes. Like it's never pretty. Let's be honest. Like the challenge is never pretty, but the
Well,
person
it's
who becomes it
regardless
is.
of, yeah, regardless of the reason it comes. Like
Yeah. Hmm.
you don't have to have attracted it necessarily, or like I know there is that whole like law of attraction and what you think about you bring about and you manifest and there's karma and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know, there's gotta be a certain level where there is just things in your life, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
I'm not sure to what degree, but either way, to be like, okay, did I attract this? Is this
Yeah.
something that I brought in? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, that's fair.
stuff, it's not worth your energy.
Yeah, it's not worth your energy to try to figure all that out. I
Yeah.
know, like, I will say, like, someone like Kevin Trudeau, somebody asked this question of him, like, I got in a car accident on the way to work. I wasn't sitting there thinking car accident, car accident, car accident. And then, but the question is, what was the energy that you were feeling? Was it on an equivalent level?
Yeah.
Or, so I don't
Well,
know.
let's put this into like a very, very weird perspective of like you might not have attracted something because there's other players in the field, right? So this is something that our mentor used to talk to us a lot about. So I have to deal with this atrocious person that abuses my kids, and my kids have to deal with her, and it sucks for all of us involved, to some degree, consciously or unconsciously. And so they obviously chose her for a certain lesson. And did I specifically, was I attracted to her because of something that she mirrors to me or something I needed to learn? Or was it that my kids vibrationally attracted me to them, you know? So there could be a very strong argument that my oldest daughter needed and attracted me into her life so that she could have the tools to manifest the life she wanted and learn the lessons that she decided to learn because of the parent she chose. So there, it doesn't necessarily that I brought this karmic person into my life, but maybe my child brought me into their life and then it brought her into my life, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
There's
I
so
mean, you
many,
could make yourself nuts
oh, for
thinking
sure.
about all that.
So many moving parts and there's so many players in the field. And that's where it's like everything has to be not serious.
Yeah, yeah. I think too, at the end of the day, even if we didn't on some level attract atrocities or people that are really not aligned with us on a conscious level, what can happen is that those people or situations can bring up those emotions that need to be cleared. I think
Mhm.
that's really what it is at the end of the day. Not a specific person, not a specific situation, but it's that we have an energetic match as far as there's an emotion that we haven't necessarily dealt with that that situation or that person draws out of us. I would absolutely say that this is true for me having been doing anesthesia for as long as I have.
Mhm.
Because on a conscious level, for a long time, I was like, I want nothing to do with this.
Yeah.
But on an unconscious, and I'm saying this very specifically unconscious, not subconscious, unconscious, meaning I literally like completely unknown to me, I was addicted, and I'm saying was because now I notice it a lot when it happens. I was addicted to drama, and I would have never thought that. Never would I have thought that I was addicted to drama until I started to notice when I would go, ooh, there is a really interesting situation happening where this surgeon is screaming at this other CRNA. I want to hear what happened. And it might not be that I'm sitting here going, I'm going to tell XYZ person and continue the drama. But it's like when a car crash is happening and you're just like, I got to watch, right? At a certain point, you have to go, I don't really want to watch anymore because that doesn't add to my life. I don't
Mhm.
even want to talk about it anymore because that doesn't add to my life. I don't want to be a part of that anymore because that doesn't add to my life. And now I can literally, people will say things to me, and I've had so many people tell me, man, you've changed a lot. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Because I started doing this. People will start to say things to me and I would go, "Oh, that's nice." Like, because they want to keep the drama going. They want to keep talking about it. They want to keep whatever. And I'll just literally be like, "Well, they are who they are." Like, I've literally done this with you, Ashley. Unfortunately, like you'll be like, "Oh my god, this lady is driving me crazy. Derek's ex is crazy," and I'll just be like, "She just is who she is. She's operating off her current level of awareness." But
Yeah.
in the past, I had to really look at this and go, oh God, I was attracted to continuing the conversation on some level. And the
Mhm.
moment I started to make that change is the moment that I started to see, oh, I don't have to work at the hospital as much anymore. Oh, I don't have to do this unless I want to anymore. This is kind of nice. Okay. Like it was a process though. It
Yeah.
didn't happen overnight. But I think that's where I'm kind of getting at. Like it's about bringing up those energetic frequencies that we might not have dealt with. And that challenge is what draws it out of us. So,
Mhm. Yeah. Well, and that's the crazy thing about our lives. They're so intertwined,
yeah.
so interconnected, and that's where I know for periods in astrology and the Schumann resonance, it's nice to have a little glimpse of what's going on. And like I know if I'm watching like my period phases, or my cycle phases, I guess, um, if I'm watching my cycle phases, it also gives me a little window of like, what do I need right now? Because I know right before I get my period, I'm emotional and I want to eat tons of food. And so, like when I'm trying to get healthier and focus on things that are gonna keep my inflammation down and all that kind of stuff, and then I get into that phase, it can be a really big challenge to not be so hard on myself and all that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. And so then I give myself extra grace during that window. And then there's another window where I'm more productive and I have more energy. And so then I break my routine a little bit and I can utilize that more.
Yeah.
And so it's nice to know, like when we have things like astrology, like and everything like that that are going on around us, it's nice to be able to tap into that
Yeah.
so we don't have to work as hard, so that we have a little bit more understanding and have a little bit of a like, I don't know, it's kind of like a little bit of magic.
Yeah, I definitely would say that that is probably the main reason I would ever pay attention to things like the Schumann resonance,
Mhm.
astrology, because it does give you a little insight. Because our
Yeah.
body does work in cycles, it does work in waves, whether you're male or female. Okay, like this literally has nothing to do with what's going on in between your legs. It has everything to do with what's going on in your head. And sometimes what's going on in your head can energetically become a frequency that is connected with what's going on astrologically as well. So yeah, it's interesting how our bodies know these things and we
Yeah.
don't have to tell them. That's one of those subconscious programs that's literally just it knows.
Yeah. And that's where like I eat differently and I
Sure.
exercise differently and I work differently. And does it mean that it's like a strict rule? Like, no, sometimes I'm on a holiday or sometimes I have a deadline and it has to go contrary to my cycle or the astrology or whatever it is. Like there are some people that are like, I'm not touching technology during Mercury retrograde. Like, let's be real, that's crazy.
That's difficult too, especially if you're on social media like we are.
Yeah. And so like there's like that kind of situation. But I like knowing we're in Mercury retrograde, and then if I'm having tons of issues with my computer, it helps me regulate and stay calm and stay present faster because I'm like, this is just Mercury retrograde. And whether it is or isn't, it doesn't really
It
matter. But it
doesn't, yeah.
helps me just kind of be like, oh, this makes sense. This is what's going down. So
Hmm.
those kind of little um tricks, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like, that's the thing about 3D reality. Let it tell you what's going on. I will literally no longer say, why the fuck is nothing working or what's going on? Just look at 3D reality. 3D
Mhm.
reality is literally telling you everything you need to know based on what you've been feeling.
Yeah.
So if you're feeling XYZ, that's what's gonna be continually reflected back at you.
Yeah.
Like that's just like 3D reality is telling you the
Mhm.
secrets that you thought were hidden from you. And
Yeah.
it's sad that we feel like, oh, I don't know what to do next, or I feel like I don't understand why nothing's working, or I used to say that all the time. Nothing's working, and I can't figure out why. Like, why
Mhm.
is nothing working? And that alone, like, makes my skin crawl to think like that because now I'm like, oh, just get really friggin' observant of
Yeah.
what's going on, whether it's inside of you or whether somebody else is reflecting something back to you as far as how do I say this? People are messengers.
Mhm.
Don't kill the messenger. The message is the internal feeling that you feel as a
Yeah.
result of that person, place, or thing, right? Don't kill the messenger. They are actually such a blessing. I can't tell you how many times I've literally thanked people in my head, obviously. I'm thanking people. Thank you for showing me what I didn't actually know that I needed to work on.
Mhm.
I needed to work on that and I wasn't paying attention to it. And you've really showed me that I need to do something about that. That gratitude gets me into another, it changes my frequency just by thinking like that. And
Yeah.
that alone changes a situation also.
Mhm.
So let's be honest though, this is such a process because it really is all about getting really super entwined with what am I thinking on a moment to moment basis.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's where that awareness comes in. It's so huge. Awareness of ourselves, and then sometimes we need awareness from other people, and this is the
Yeah.
hard one because they're viewing you from their perspective,
Yes.
but sometimes we have blinders up. Like my middle child is like the biggest lesson for this. Like it'll be like, was what you did just effective? And he's like, yeah. Like I'm really proud of myself. And I'm just like, okay. And so like there's like that like disillusionment,
Mhm.
right? That we have, and we all do it to
Mhm.
various degrees. He just does it a lot more than other people.
Mhm.
And but like there's situations like that or and dealing with his mom for me, it's just like there's so much lack of awareness and like disillusionment. And it's just like, whoa, like what is going on? And so that's where sometimes we do need other people's feedback and other people's help, but you also have to trust where you're getting that from and
100%.
understand their perspective as well.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. That is one, I think finding a mentor is probably one of the most important things you can do, but also the scariest things you can do
yeah,
because you want to find somebody that is going to look at you for you
yeah,
and not focus on all of the shortcomings, right? Like, and not focus from their perspective also,
yeah,
because they could literally come in and be like, well, I wouldn't do it that way. And like, they have their own agenda. And
hmm,
that's fine, but I wouldn't want somebody that has their own agenda for me trying to inform me what to do next, right? Because it's always going to skew the results. And I always look for people that it's like, do they have what I want? If the answer is yes, 100% we're following you. If the answer is no, on some level, they don't have what I want, I don't think that I want to follow in your footsteps.
yeah.
That's not for me.
Hmm.
So, yeah. It's fun, mentors. Oh, well.
Well, it's just like everything we've talked about. You have to test it and see if it works for you,
Yeah.
whether that is your period, astrology, the Schumann resonance, all of it, everything you have to test. And
Yeah.
it's hard because that
Yeah.
your disillusionment plays a role in it too. So,
Yeah. I think like looking at life as an experiment is so healthy though, where you're like, well, if I do this, what does that do? If I change my feelings around this, what does that do? If I change how I look at that situation, what does that do? And really getting focused on that. I feel like I do that really well on social media. And so as a result of figuring out how to do that on social media, I went, I need to do this in my life too, right? Like, I really need to see what is the cause and effect in certain situations and what did I create whenever I did that and all of that, you know? So it can be fun. You don't have to make yourself crazy though.
yeah.
Just let it be a fun experiment.
Hmm.
So with that, I think we can call this episode of TMI Advice You Didn't Want a wrap for today. So if you're listening on your favorite podcast host, go ahead, give us a 5-star. Let us know in the comments what your thoughts are. And if you're listening on YouTube, go ahead, give us a like, a subscribe, and let us know in the comments what your thoughts are as well. So with that, we're going to call TMI Advice You Didn't Want a wrap for today. See everyone next time. Thanks so much for watching. Click on one of the videos below to continue hanging out with us, and don't forget to subscribe.